Hey, what's up guys? So I heard about a man that goes into a job interview and he presented himself really well. The owner was leaning towards hiring him but had one final question. He asked what happened during the 5-year gap on the resume. And the guy being interviewed said, "Oh, that's when I went to Yale." Now the owner was so impressed he said, "Wow, okay, I guess you're hired." And the man yells out, "Yay, I got a job." Get it? Yob, job, Yale, jail. All right, anyway, let's talk about job interviews. Anytime you go on a listing appointment or host a buyer consultation, it's like you're on an interview, right? Only when it's done correctly, it's really like a mutual interview. I mean, when done correctly, both the prospective client and the professional are evaluating each other and the situation. And when you agree to work together, it should be the equivalent of becoming a team in the marketplace. Well, this week, a California Realtor lost our business. Or in other words, we chose not to team up with him. And I want to tell you why so that you don't make the same mistake. Now, many of you know my partner John is a personal trainer, and we've been looking for commercial real estate for his gym out here. We both have a ton of real estate experience, and so we started exploring. And naturally, we inquired about several properties, and sadly, some agents never called us back, or by the time they did, several days had passed. But we did connect with one gentleman who showed us 2 properties. And if you had to guess, would you say that he disclosed who he represented up front? Nah, who bothers with that? Well, clearly we already knew. But what if we were average consumers? That would have been the beginning of lots of confusion. So we ended up liking one of the properties and we sent a letter of intent to open negotiations. But from that point forward, communication from the agent was inconsistent and unclear. He always sent emails and he never even bothered to pick up the phone. I mean, the phone is so old school, right? Who wants to connect on a more personal level these days? Anyway, over a month passed, and while much of that delay was because of the owner, the agent did nothing to attempt to build a relationship with us in case this property didn't work out. From the very beginning, there were no expectations set, no attempts to have any proper consultation, and no disclosures of any kind were made. Now again, because of our industry experience, this didn't compromise our situation. But can you see how it sets the stage for tons of confusion for the average consumer? I mean, without insider knowledge, a prospect would have to fill in the gaps about what was happening on their own. And that means they'd be forced to make up a story, whether it was true or not. Now, sadly, that's a common story, but it does open up a huge opportunity for you. I mean, I can't think of another time when professionals, not just agents, have been more distracted and more eager to toss good sales practices out the window. And all that does is hurt the consumer. So recently, we found another property, and John asked what I thought about using this agent to put together a new offer for us, but pretty quickly we agreed that that would be a bad move. That agent had already blown the opportunity to earn our business and had broken trust. Now, I'd argue that he loses tons of prospects this way. They move on to other agents based on how they feel about their interaction. But I can tell you objectively why they move on. It's because the agent was too informal, probably because he was too worried about being seen as a salesperson, and because of that, prospects don't trust him. Now, the truth is, consumers need you to be a salesperson, one with a clear and deliberate process. Consumers need you to insist on initial consultations so expectations can be set, and they need you to over-communicate so they're never left with enough time to make up their own story about what's going on. And I wrote about all of this extensively in my upcoming book, The Top Producer Life, because you simply won't be a top producer if you're too informal and inconsistent in your work with prospects and clients. And speaking of the book, when I was building my team, I spoke with quite a few people, but at the end of the day, both the editor and the designer that I hired were the ladies that did 2 things. They scheduled consultations with me to learn about my book and to see if we'd be a fit. And while we've worked together, they've been so communicative that I've not once had the chance to wonder what's going on. Before I could ask, they were already following up with me. So think about your patterns with your own clients, and this week make 2 commitments for the sake of the client and for your own life as a top producer. First insist on initial consultations with everyone always. And second, commit that you'll over-communicate with people if you have to, so that they never have a chance to make up a story on their own. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. It's going to be a fantastic week, so let's get out there and think bigger.